Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us today for this live stream / hybrid event. My name is Alexia, and I am the project and event manager of the Microsoft Reactor Toronto. I will be sharing session resources with you in the chat, but before we begin, I'd like to quickly review two items, our code of conduct and event guidelines. First, please take a moment to review our code of conduct. Microsoft Reactor seeks to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. We do encourage engagement in the chat, but please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. And secondly, our event guidelines. This session is being recorded and will be available on demand through the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel, in about 24 to 48 hours. And if you've not been on a live stream through YouTube before, please note that you must create an account on YouTube in order to interact and access the chat. You can set that up now, and if you're unable to use the chat but have questions, feel free to reach out to us through social media or on Meetup. Which brings us to today's session. I'm going to bring in our speakers here, starting with Bruno. Hi, Bruno.
So let me switch video.
Can I come over?
Yes. Yes.
Hi, everyone. So before we kind of kick off the event tonight with Twilio and Azure, I wanted to take a couple minutes of your time to talk you guys through a really cool program that Microsoft has for supporting startups and founders. So it's called the Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but if you're not, I will just quickly go through this. So essentially, this is a startups program that was set up by Microsoft for founders as a self-service portal in order to get the support they need technically, get into a Microsoft organized mentorship network, and also, of course, who doesn't like Azure credits? You can get up to $150,000 of Azure credits, and on top of that, access and free access at that to Microsoft tools and other platforms like Office 365, GitHub, Visual Studios, Power BI, many, many more. So, this program is something that can grow with you as your business scales. So something that's really cool here is there are 4 different levels available depending on the stage of your business journey. And you get about, 1 to 4 years of time period through this program to be able to build at your own pace, to be able to leverage the credits that's at your disposal, and also access the tools and productivity software that's available to you. So, a little bit more specifically, the productivity tools that are available to you guys are Visual Studio Enterprise, GitHub Enterprise, Microsoft 365, Power Platform, including the Power Apps, Power BI Pro, Power Automate, and also Dynamics 365 as well. So specifically on kind of the Azure credit side, there are 4 different levels that you and your business can be approved for. So very easy to kind of assess where you'll fit. If you are, a founder with an idea and you're kind of building your prototype, you get 1K in Azure credits. If you're currently developing your solution and building that MVP, 5K, you'd be at that stage. If you've already developed an MVP and you're focused on now acquiring your first customer, you'd be at that growth stage with 25K. And then if you've already found product market fit and you're ready to focus on scaling your company, growing your business, and potentially through co-sell opportunities with Microsoft, then you'll be at that 4th and final level of scale. And regardless of which level you're accepted into the program at, with the exception of the level 4 scale, you'll have the opportunity to level up as you progress through the program and as your business qualifies for the next level up. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And then on top of that, I want to highlight non-financial incentives as well for this program. And I think this is really kind of where the impact is at. I think for a lot of startups and a lot of businesses that we work with from the startups team, the feedback that we've received is that it's really, really challenging to get connected with anyone at Microsoft. If anyone's ever tried to get through to a support person through anything that they use at Microsoft, you get transferred to many, many different folks. And I think one of the advantages of the Founders Hub program is that there are, allocated hours of technical advisory sessions that your business could get access to help you overcome the roadblocks at whichever stage of the journey that you're in. There's also access to events and trainings, and then also a mentor network that's available to startups and businesses that are at the level 4 stage of Founders Hub, where they can, access industry experts and product experts within the Microsoft network. So that being said, if you guys want to find out a little bit more, I would encourage you to visit the link on the top right corner of your screen, aka.ms/startups_reactor. Take a look. Okay, awesome. With that being said, I'll pass it back to Bruno to kick off the session.
Thanks, Judy. Thanks, everyone. Hey, this is going to be a fun one. We are doing this hybrid, so you're going to see me looking at the back camera, the front camera, people here answering questions, try to have both of them. And hey, I am so happy. Rishabh, you want to do your intro? You want to introduce yourself? I have here your stuff, because today we want to talk a little about Azure. We want to talk about also Twilio, and we want to share some very fun demos of stuff that we can do together with this. So you have your slides here.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll just hold it in my hand. But yeah, so Twilio also, as we saw about Azure credits, we also have something with Twilio where we help startups engage with your customers. We provide different communication channels. For some of you, you might not be familiar with what Twilio offers. So we have different APIs and methods that you can use to communicate with your customer. And I'll just go over a few things here real quick. So we did an event with startups earlier. I think it was 3 months ago here in Toronto downtown. It was called Startup Labs. So I'm reusing the slides, so please ignore that. But we'll talk about pizza first. Who here likes pizza? I know I love it. I can eat it every day, at least once. The reason we are talking about pizza is that the first MVP for Twilio was written at the backside of the pizza box. And you can see this is the exact drawing by Jeff, who is our CEO, when we were planning what Twilio would be. This is from 2007, and it's, I think, in a safe place right now. You will probably see it framed. But yeah, so when you are, creating ideas for your startups, it could be back of a napkin, thinking about how you want to help customers, what is your solution. That's how Twilio Startups program also helps you. We focus on customer engagement, so whether it be email, right, whether it be SMS, voice, and now we have some other things that I'll be talking about next. We have Segment, which will help you, get some metrics based on how your website is being used. Specifically, think of online stores and stuff. And you might be asking, what is customer engagement? So customer engagement, we think, is the emotional connection with your company and with your customers. So the emotional connection between your company and the customers is customer engagement. And there is a customer engagement lifecycle, which I believe you kind of might be familiar with. So it starts with marketing, creating that brand awareness for your startup. And then you move on to sales, which is self-explanatory, where you do the actual sale of your product. The third is delivery. So you communicate with your customer on how the product was delivered. And the last one, and I think it's really important, is the support. So how do you provide support to your customer after they have been served with the product, right? So I love this new diagram. So this is a new addition, but these are all the channels that are available to you with the help of Twilio's Power, right? As I was saying, we added a new one called Twilio Segment right there. But you have messaging, you have voice, you have ads, you have email, and you have video now. So you can have video built in using our API with websites. I have seen 2 case studies where it was used with doctor appointments. So they have built-in, appointments where doctors talk to their patients live on the website after they are scheduled for their appointment, especially during the times of COVID. So the important thing is picking the right channel at the right time, as we saw in the life cycle. There is marketing, sales, delivery, and then support. But we have to decide what is the right channel. So if it's something urgent, right, we'll be picking SMS or voice or like calls, right? If it's something that's not that urgent and can be an email, I'll go through an email. I have an SMS demo later after Bruno has presented his really cool project here. So we'll be going over that. It will be a quick demo on how you can use Twilio's Power to communicate with your customers. Over to you, Bruno.
Perfect. Thanks. Hey, thanks everyone. Let's start to do some stuff in Azure. Let me see if I have my tracking. Yeah, let's hide some stuff just in case. So let me start showing and telling what I have here. We were thinking when we started to talk with Rishabh about what we can do and what we can show. I know that we have some people here who are using already Twilio. You know the product, you know the stuff. My idea today was to show you how myself, as a newbie, using literally no code. I'm a programmer, but my challenge was to use no code. I made some stuff. I'm not going to say that I make a super cool solution or whatever, because you're going to see what I am talking about. But hey, it's up and running, it's working, and it was a fun learning process. So the idea today is I'm going to talk about a feeder that I created, connected to the cloud with Azure IoT. I am talking about low code using Logic App, how I use Twilio, and squirrels, a lot of squirrels. So I usually start asking basically sorry about the crappy demos and the dad jokes and those stuff. But hey, it's a fun learning process. So it all started last year. I moved to the country, I moved far away from the city, and I started to have a lot of animals in my backyard. I have a lot of squirrels, so I started to feed them. I mean, they start to come here to get food, and I start to feed them. And as non-Canadian, I came from Spain, originally from Argentina, it shocked me that even in the winter, they were running around with the snow trying to get some food. So I decided to go to a dollar store, pick up a bird feeder, $2 or something like this, and I start to feed them there, which was super cool. We will spend a lot of time with my family watching the squirrels there. But I'm a techie person, and so I started to see, okay, I have animals in my backyard, I feed them, there is some pattern there, there is some data there, how we can hack the squirrels, whatever. So I was thinking about this. Okay, I have the squirrels, I have the table, I have some food for them there. Maybe I can create something, maybe I can use a couple of devices that are going to be connected to the cloud and using some kind of using a sensor. They are going to basically detect how many times I have a squirrel coming to get some food. In order to do this, I select to work with this super cool device. It's called Wio Terminal. It's an Arduino-based device. It's from a company called Seed Studio. They sell a lot of amazing products, and I really like it because it's Arduino-based and has a screen. It's a very low screen, very small screen. Resolution, I think, is 320 to 40, but it also have wireless capabilities. You can connect to a Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, you can connect, you can insert an SD card. They have a couple of buttons, an accelerometer. I have a smart door there that I control with the Arduino, and it's super small. It's basically like a small box of matcha or something like this, and it's Arduino based. So I like it, I love it. Arduino is a super fun environment to program. So my ABC to create the feeder for the squirrels was, let's start working on the interface. Disclaimer, I am not a designer, so this is the best that I can do. Write some tests, add an icon of a tree, and then add the progress circle or whatever, that there is something happening there. And when I detect a squirrel, I show an icon from a squirrel. So number one was there, was fine. Number two, okay, what I can use to detect when someone is close, when a squirrel is in the feeder. So I use an ultrasonic ranger, which is basically a sensor that detects a distance. If an object passes in front of the sensor, it's going to detect the distance. And what I did is, okay, if anything is closer than 5 centimeters, I am closing my hand there, I am going to emulate and do a mock-up about the squirrel. So that's my ABC. With this all together, I started to test this. I forgot to bring this, sorry about that. My head is in another place. I have the crappiest and ugliest squirrel, stuffy squirrel there, but I go there, detect the squirrel, super cool, super fun. There it is. The last part is to do something to feed the animals. So basically I use a servo motor connected to the Arduino, and when it's open, it's going to release some food and open and close. So all of the pieces are there. We have an amazing library to connect those devices to Azure IoT. So the next step for me was, hey, let's connect this to the cloud and register this device in Azure IoT. And every time that I detect the squirrel, I am going to send telemetry to the cloud. So what you see there in the animation is basically detecting the squirrel there. And when the squirrel is detected, this is a monitor of the telemetry that's happening in the cloud. In Azure IoT, you are going to see a couple of JSON messages here. Okay, detected a squirrel there, open or close, whatever. If you want to buy this, if you want to build this, I created a tutorial where you can, I'm supposed to have this open before, forget all this. But if you want to build this, there is this repo in GitHub that has all of the steps and the source code to build this. So again, the only thing that I don't have yet is a 3D model for the feeder, but you can see here the story, and you can see here the hardware, what we are using, how we run this, how you can run and test the sample, and a couple more stuff. Everything is here. It's taking a lot to load the images, but it's going to be there. Also, we have an amazing full tutorial to create a full solution using a Raspberry Pi, a video terminal, or an emulator if you don't have the device in aka.sms/IoT beginners. So that's another option. And if you want to know more about the video terminal, this is the URL of the device. As I said, I love the device. It's small, it's fast, and I have also a couple of sensors here. But what's happened on my backyard? I realized that I don't only have squirrels. I have birds, raccoons, skunks. I don't have bears yet, but this is also the camera. You can see there the fight between a blue jay and a squirrel. So the squirrel kick out the blue jay, but a couple of seconds later, the blue jay will be back here. By the way, I don't test my device when it's raining or snowy because it's not waterproof, but I use it sometimes there. So now the squirrel is gone, but hey, there it is, the blueberry is back. So that's why I improved my model. I create my full solution to use computer vision using a camera to detect what animal is there. So again, I write, you can find here a repo with all of the steps that if you want to train a model to detect animals. I don't know why when I wrote and I did this, I used a squirrel and a space wolf from Warhammer. Sorry about that. I think it was what was close to myself, but you can find step-by-step how you can run and create a model to identify objects, identify who is there, identify who we have there, and then how you can also put this here. There is another model of the feeder that I have right now that has a camera and identify this. Because with all of this, I am probably going to build the slides. I built this. Let me open my camera and let me show you what I have here in my desk. So right now here in my desk, I have up and running the device. So the device is connected. And if I forget to bring my if I'm going to bring my squirrel, but if I put my hand here, it changes, show squirrel, and after a couple of seconds, it's going to close the lid that we have of the button. And because I don't have the camera here, I switch animals pressing one of the buttons. I love the video terminal, but if I go back here, it's going to change to a bird. And if I use here the Azure IoT Hub Explorer, so let me do this like this. This is the device that we are using. This is Explorer for the device and that are connected there. So I'm going to check the telemetry. I'm going to start to check the telemetry. And let me clear the events. So right now, if I start to emulate again animals, at any moment, I will start to have here that it was open, it was closed, I have a bird. If I change the animal, I don't know which one I have here. A rabbit. I don't have a rabbit. OK, I have a rabbit, so put it here. And it's going to detect the rabbit. And after a couple of seconds, we are going to see the telemetry here about the rabbit. So there it is for the people online who are probably going to have some problems reading. This is what I have here. And hey, this is basically the information that I am working right now. It's a simple JSON with action, animal, how many times the feeder was open, the states, open or closed, and how far it detects the animal. So that was kind of the idea. And this is kind of out of the box. By the way, I'm not going to do a review unless someone asks this, but I have the full source code available here. You can take a look at everything that's happened here. It's all published in the repo. It's super fun to build something like this. You learn a lot. And it's also a device on the cloud. It's also a device that is already in Azure, working in Azure IoT. So I have all of this telemetry, all of this JSON activity, these JSON messages are already sent to the cloud. Out of the box, because I am using Azure IoT, the device is managed, the communication, this telemetry, it's all encrypted, it's all secure. Everything that we have in Azure around security is applied also here. But for me, this is the moment that I start to think, OK, I have this up and running. I have this with a lot of telemetry here, what I can do. So the way that it works is that when you have telemetry in Azure IoT, you can basically start to react to this telemetry in real time. In example, using functions. You use a service on the cloud called EventGrid or EventHub, and then every time that you have telemetry, you can connect to trigger an Azure function. I am a developer, so I try to do that. I try to say, OK, I want to use a function. I am going to get this JSON and do my stuff with the JSON. But someone challenged me, can we work without code? And we do the same stuff that you're planning to do, basically save this JSON file in a repository without code? And I say, OK, let's give it a try. And I was surprised how easy, how quick we can do these kind of things. So let me go back here. Again, this is the repo with the full solution. But what I have here is my IoT Hub. I'm sharing my screen. This is Azure IoT. If someone of the people online can give me a thumbs up or down about the size of the fonts, I will zoom in or zoom out. Same here. If you can see, let me know. But here in the hub, there are plenty of properties. I have my device already configured here, and I have the chance to connect events, to react to the events. So by default, and by the way, this is what you see here in the chart. This is this is what's happening right now. This is the stuff that I am faking here right now. How many events I am sending or closing? Let's trigger a couple more. I have everything here. And how I can react to these events? Basically, as I mentioned, we have functions. I'm a very big fan of Azure functions. If you know, can't remember how many programming languages, but the most popular, Python, C#, JavaScript, Java, Go. I mean, any of the top right now popular languages are supported or probably supported there. And hey, you just write a very simple piece of code that is going to be hosted and automated and activated everything on the cloud. And in this scenario, if I click an Azure function, it's going to basically do all of the connection work in the back to react to any event of the Azure IoT, and I am going to process in the function. And the function, you can write it with your own preference, the editor that you really like it more. I use Code. It's kind of the easier one, but you can do this in plenty of other stuff. As I mentioned, you have other options here. You can create a webhook, so you need to call your specific whatever. But we also have logic apps. And logic apps is a low-code, no-code environment where basically it's going to have a trigger. In this case, the trigger is going to have the connection to the event grid. And what I need to do here, I need to say, OK, here, let's work with IoT hubs. And I have 5 different type of events that I can react in IoT hubs that are basically, I can trigger this flow when a device is connected, disconnected, created, deleted, or telemetry, which is the one that I want to do now. So I'm going to do telemetry, and then I am going to basically, I have here a very big JSON file that I have at the beginning, so I am going to choose an operation. Let me try to make this a little bigger so we can talk a little about this. So what we see here is a canvas, and what I can do here, I can start to add operations. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I am going to pick up the content. All of these variables that you see here are the ones that came from the event that it was triggered. So I have a body, and then I have event data, then I have the time, the type, an ID, a subset of the event. I am going to work with the body, and because I want to parse the JSON, I can basically provide a schema or upload the sample JSON. It's going to generate the schema. I think I have my schema somewhere here in my... Oh, where is this? I'm probably going to miss the good one. I think it's this one. Otherwise, I can copy this for another one. But I can provide here a schema. And then in example here, because I have this schema, I can access to other variable and start to work with this. And these operations, we can do plenty of stuff. If you're a programmer, you want to condition here. What I can do here is I can start to work with flow. So I have control actions like a condition for each, scope, switch, and more. I don't know, if I want to, for whatever reasons, I want to send this by email, I can send by email. If I want to save this stuff in Dynamics, we can do this with Dynamics. If I want to save this stuff in Salesforce, hey, we have a couple of activities. Let me see if Salesforce is available here. Yes, we have a couple of activities to work with Salesforce. One of the most powerful things that we can do using logic apps on the Power Platform are the connectors. The connectors, of course, support the most popular Microsoft products, Office, Azure, Windows, etc. But we also have connectors for Salesforce or for whatever reason. If every time that I want to detect one of these, I want to send a tweet, I am going to use here, select Twitter, and maybe send a tweet, or maybe retweet. And also, our friends, there is Twitter. And what I can do with Twitter is if I have an account, I can access the accounts and get the followers, or get the following, or the timeline. I didn't know about this one. Get my follower, get user, and somewhere here at the bottom is probably going to post a tweet. There it is. And of course, as expected, we have we have Twilio, and we have a couple of operations to also work with Twilio. Going to take some time, there it is. But with Twilio, we have the options to get messages, to list the messages, or to send the message. So I am not going to do the full process by scratch because it requires a couple of steps. I already have one here, up and running, connected there to Designer, and let me show you super quickly what I am doing here. So let me do an F11. There it is. So basically, when we have a trigger from the Azure IoT, and the trigger is for telemetry, I am going to, as I did before, parse the JSONs, and then because I have a big JSON file and the body of the JSON file is encoded in 64, the first thing that I'm going to I am going to decode that section for base 64. And by the way, there are plenty of functions to work with the strings, collections, and plenty of other activities that we can do here. So it's super cool, the stuff that you can do out of the box. And if you have some programming background, you can do even more. But please be nice. Think about someone else needs to maintain this and do not do crazy stuff. Sometimes it's close to regular expressions and you don't want to maintain that. So hey, I'm going to decode this. Then I'm going to have another, because that's the second JSON, I'm going to parse this, and then I am going to create a variable here. And in this variable, I am going to create a JSON here that is going to have this format with, I am going to ask a with function to generate an ID, and then animal, action, feed count, feeder state, do these kind of things. And let's remove this one, not because I already have created this, but I am going to create a file here in OneDrive to save this. And what I am going to do is, in a specific folder, I am going to create a name, and the name is going to have the date, time. Let me see if I can show it here, the date, time, and then the action, and the animal, and the action as a name file, and this JSON, and this is going to be saved there. So with this up and running, because it was up and running a couple of times, I can go here, take a look at the history of the events. This is the one that we have right now. And if I take a look at one of the runs, this was 3:25, 7 minutes ago. Basically, I have here the parse JSON. So this is the input JSON file that I have here with all of the data. This is the output. This is the output. So now I understand the JSONs. I am going to decode the base 64. Here you can see that somewhere here in the body, this is the body that I have, which is encoded. So sorry. So this is the output decoded, and I have it here. I'm going to parse again the JSON, and then I'm going to basically create this JSON and save it to a file and save it to OneDrive. If I open the OneDrive location now that I am saving, this is right now, 8 minutes ago, and I have a rabbit open and close. So I have rabbits open and close. If I change it, let's change the animal to squirrel and trigger again the format, the feeder. 10 seconds, 5 seconds. I am not running this in high priority. I'm using the basic and free layer for testing this. But after there it is, this is the JSON that I created. That is here. And to show you that this is really the JSON, even if I need to remember to delete this because I am using this for other stuff, let's go to the designer. Let's go to the activity where I create the JSON, and let's add one here. Let's do the script. Cool day with Azure and Twilio. Yes, this is not going to be a valid JSON. I don't care, just a string. But when it's saved there, if we go back here and trigger again the process, the next two elements that we have here are going to show this. Open, close, there it is. If I open, there it is. So super fast, literally, you need to understand what is a JSON file, how it works. You need to understand how to format this, but with the minimum knowledge, you can do this. And the challenge here, okay, what if I want to do what if I have beautiful birds visiting me, and I want to send an SMS when I have a bird. I don't care about the squirrels and the raccoons and everything else, but what's happened if I want to send an email when I have a bird? So what I am going to do here, I'm going to add an if condition. And again, sorry, let me do this in. So control, condition. So let's pick up here from all of the variables that I have here. I have animal. So if animal is equal to bird, I think it's bird, I am going to add an action. And in the action section, if I hit search for Twilio, there it is, Twilio, I will send the message. I haven't used Twilio in this account, so at this moment, what I need to basically do is set up the authentication with my Twilio account. So let's create a name here. Let's do Reactor Twilio demo, and then I am going to go and look for this info in my Twilio account, which should be here. Yes. And thanks for deleting my token when I am not using my auth tokens. So let's go here, and hey, should be here in the bottom. Yeah, so I have here my seed. So let's go back here with my seed. I don't need your help, Eds, right now. And I have here my token. Let's paste here the token. So with this, I only need to do this once, unless I have different accounts and it's to set up different connectors. So there it is. So from the number, I see. Let me see if I have it here. Yes, this is super cool. So the first time I was doing this and I was trying to add a phone number, I see this phone number 928-693-4252. I didn't know, okay, who is this guy? I don't know, this is not myself. And then I remember that when I created my account here in Twilio, and please correct me if I'm saying this wrong, I have a sample number, a test number. I can't remember the exact name, but hey, I have a number, a temporary number that I'm using, and it's that number. So at this moment, the logic app is going to, sorry, let me close this, going to my account in Twilio, picking up the numbers and showing here the numbers. So let's do this to this number. Let's add the destination number. And let's add the text. So let's do bird was detected. So this is my text. And that should be it. That should be good enough to save this. And as I said, if I go back to my process, to my logic app, and I trigger this, right now we are detecting a squirrel, so it's not going to do anything. This one should go for the false. But let's see here in the feeder logs, we have a squirrel. I don't know if that's the last one, probably. And let's change it to a bird. And in the meantime, I have my phone here open. Let's see if I change it to a bird, if I get an SMS. So let's go back here. Let's refresh this. Yes, it was succeed. It was opening. And if I take a look at the run, it did everything that we need to do, but we have here that the condition was false because we don't have a bird. So let's trigger this with the bird. When I trigger this with the bird, there it is. I have a text here. I'm going to show and share my screen with the phone here and test it. But if I go back to the run history, let's go to the last one. We can see here that, oh, this is not the last one. Refresh. There it is. We can see here that, hey, check, send, and I have here. Let me show my phone here, and we can take a look every time that I'm sending a message. That, sorry, I'm triggering a lot of stuff. So let me connect my phone. To my computer. So display devices. Oh no, I'm in a different network. 1 second. Sorry about that. It automatically went for the good network. There it is. And now if I try to go to the labs network screencast, okay, sorry about this. I cannot see this, but I will kindly ask Alexia to show my camera. Can you enable my camera, Alexia? I don't think she's listening. Alexia? Oh, perfect, thanks. And you can see here a couple of messages. I hope you can read it. Sorry about that. Wasn't expected to have this. And hey, if I trigger again, I will have messages. The problem here is not the problem, but I have in SMS. Right now I have another one. I have two SMS because I have one SMS when the feeder is open and then close. What I really need to do here, if I want to finish this, is I need to go and edit my process, another condition saying, okay, only send an SMS when the animal is equal to bird, and then when the action it's equal to open. I think it's open. Let me check one of the. Let's check one of the JSONs. Yes, open. There it is. So with this, only for this type of JSON scenarios, I will have this. The full idea that didn't have this open, I don't have the camera, is that, hey, I want to have an SMS where, say, I detected the bird and a link to storage in the cloud with a photo of the bird that is what's there. So it's going to be easy like this. So with this up and running, I should start to have SMS with this. So this was super cool. This was super nice. Again, it literally took me a couple of minutes to figure out the JSON, a couple of things. The Twilio part was the most easy one. I wasn't expected to be as easy like this. And if I can even go back here to the logs of my account, and if I refresh this, I am going to have a couple of messages sent today about the bird and what the stuff that we are doing. So messages, there it is. This is UTC. Sorry about that. Not smart enough today to make the changes, but you can see there. This is the message that we send in right now from to, and a bird was detected, which was super cool to have, super cool to do. So for me, it was fun. It was a fun experience. I learned a lot. I basically moved this from text file to email to using Twilio to SMS. I'm looking forward to see what else we can do. I'm guessing that if I want to do more, I will probably need to go back to the API. I will probably need to work. I have more chances with the API. So move away from the logic apps and start to do functions. But it was nice. It was fun. And I know that we talk about this, so I'm looking forward to see what you are going to tell me today, Rishabh, and other stuff that we can use. And we are going to chat here today. But if you have any questions or you want to see anything else, you can find me almost everywhere, and I will be happy to answer any questions. So with that said, go back to you. If you want to come here and connect your computer, sure. You have USB-C?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So I leave the. And you need to share a screen in StreamYard also.
Oh. Can you send me the link?
Yes, sure. I don't have the microphone anymore, so sorry for the quality demo. Have some fun.
So super small for me. So kind of figure out how to make it. Twilio has a bunch of libraries available for using our API, and we just launched last week our Go library. So you can use Twilio's API, utilizing those SDKs into different in different programming languages. We'll be using Python today, and what I want to share about some things about programmable messaging here. So the first thing is, what is SMS? It stands for Short Messaging Service, and is commonly known as texting nowadays. It is stateless. So what that means is I can send a text to, let's say, Bruno, and he can take his sweet time and reply after 3 days, or he can reply to me at the same day. But that's the stateless nature of the SMS, as compared to phone calls. When you receive it, you're talking back and forth. So SMS can be stateless. I'll be going over some of the amazing docs that our Twilio team has created. So this is from our Twilio docs team. And here we can see is a quick example of how you can send, some basic boilerplate code to send a message. You can see a from number, to number, and we are using the Twilio REST library here. So let's copy this over, and we can see how you can customize this to your needs. So if I copy this over to, so I have a Python text file here, which is blank right now, and you can see it says Ahoy World. Ahoy was the term that was used first time when we called. It was used in the past. I don't know when we changed to saying hi or hello, but yeah, we'll be using Ahoy. And few things here. So we're importing OS. What I also do is I have my environment variables stored in a .env file, if I'm correct. Yeah, there it is. So we'll import that over. Also, and what I want to change here is, say, Ahoy World, instead of the default message that we had here according to the docs team. So Ahoy World, this is Rishab, right? So something like that. And want to make sure that we are using the environment variables. Like Bruno showed, you could have your account SID and the auth token that's necessary to make authentication to your Twilio account to make those SMS service. So you can utilize Twilio. So it's part of the authentication. And if I go on top and make sure I import the .env, this cursor is driving me crazy. Okay. So from .env, okay, from .env import, and this is basically a library that loads our environment variables from the .env file where I have stored my both auth token and SID. I don't want to display it publicly because you could be utilizing it to spam people. And then we just do load .env. That sound, did I miss a V? Yes, I did. Okay, so now let's change the from and to number. So I have a sticky here, and I'll have it on the top. So that is my from. So this is my Twilio number. As we saw that Bruno was confused, which number is that? Since I have been doing a lot of these demos, I have it on a sticky so that I don't forget what my Twilio number is. And then we get rid of the extra spacing. For the to number, what I have is we have a CLI that we use. So Twilio has its own CLI, and we launched dev phone, which basically means you can have, to do these cool demos, I don't want to disclose my personal number or show my phone, right? You can have a dev phone setup that is running on a local port, which is 1337. And you can see the number is on the top here, so plus 412. So this is also another Twilio number that I have in my account. And if you go back and change my to number to this, we should receive a text once I run this code. So get rid of this. Okay, bunch of empty space, hit save. I have my virtual environment set up, so we needed Flask, we needed the Twilio REST library to be imported, right? So I have already done pip install Twilio. What I want to do is now Python, have caps on, so Python, and the file name is ahoy world. So if you run that, you can see I had a print statement at the end which said print the message.sid, which is a unique ID every message gets when you send it. And now if we go back to the dev phone, we should see a message saying, ahoy world, this is Rishabh. Dev phone is basically like my cell phone. So if I had to change that number to my personal phone, I should be receiving a text message. So that's a really beginner-friendly demo of how the Twilio library and Twilio API works for SMS. And what the challenge here is, your body is kind of predefined and locked in. Same thing is with your to number, which is not usually the case when you're communicating to your bunch of different customers. So what I wanted to show is how you can set up a Flask server. And Flask is basically a web application framework like Express for the JavaScript folks. And we'll set that up, and we'll see a demo where if you text that number, you'll get a response back. So that will be our two-way communication. But first, I'll show how we can do it, do a one-way communication right here. So I want to copy some boilerplate code for Flask. I don't know if I already have that in my one-way file. I do. So what I'm doing is I'm just importing Flask, and then we already saw the Twilio library, which we are importing. And then we have some more boilerplate code for our Flask. So what I'll do is app.route, which is basically the URL endpoint that our web server would be listening at. So if you do app.route, and I believe /SMS is a good endpoint. And you can similarly have a different endpoint for your voice calls, right? And for the method, we'll accept both get and post. So get, and then comma, post. Because we'll change this to a two-way communication app, we would have to accept post requests. So I'm doing a bunch of work early on for my later part of the demo. And then we define our function, which we'll name SMS because I think that's a good name. So define SMS. And what I want it to do is we'll use the messaging response from the Twilio library here. So messaging response, right? And then we'll say that our response dot message is pretty similar to what we said earlier. So ahoy, welcome to Reactor. This is reship. Oops. Okay, so that's our message response. What I also want to include is message.media and maybe include a cat pic. So HTTPS, there is a cat as a service API, which I was really fascinated to know about. And there is also a dog as a service API. So you can get random cat pics or dog pics, depending on what you prefer, right? So that will be our media. So you can already see that you can send media files as MMS, not only just text files or text-based messages. And then we also do a response that the HTTP request was successful, which means we'll be sending a HTTP status code of 200. Okay. So some more boilerplate at the end saying, if you have worked with Python before, you know the drill. So that our app runs once we call that file in our command line. And we'll have app.run. Okay. Let's save this.
I think you need to fix the indent on the if, on the last if.
Oh, yeah, you're right. There we go. Yep. Super cool. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I feel okay about this code. Let's try running it now. So Python, and this is one-way Flask. So one, and if I hit tab, it should give us a web server running on local port 5000. What I want to do is make it public because you'll see where we have to post this URL. So we'll be utilizing webhooks. And if you're not familiar with webhooks, I have a good analogy of, so webhooks are like, so let's say you need sugar and you go to your neighbor to ask sugar. But the thing with that is every time you need it, you have to go to them and ask them about sugar. With webhooks, it's every time they have sugar, they throw the bag towards you. So that's a good analogy, I guess. If it didn't make sense, I'm sorry. But we'll be utilizing webhooks here. And if I go to my account, which is on this tab, and go to messaging, overview, I guess I could go to phone numbers and manage, and click on active numbers. And it's having some hard time. So I'll hit refresh. Oh my God, I don't know what I did. Okay, there we go. So active numbers, this is our from number. So we'll open that up. Go down to the bottom and you can see there is a setting for webhooks. I'll zoom it in so it's readable. So we don't want to do anything with voice because we are not using that, but there's the functionality to use it. And this is the URL for webhooks that we will be changing. So if I go to one-way Flask again, look for the URL, which should be here under ports. And this is the public URL. So copy that, go over to my console again, and paste it here. And then also remember the URL endpoint that we were using is /SMS. So hit save. Now, if you want to test this, you can text that number on the top. I don't know how readable it is. So I'll open this up in the terminal so that we can see the messages coming in and if it's running fine or not. But what I'll do is I'll text that number, copy this. Say anything, say hi, and we should see some response from our Flask server. Okay, let's wait for a response. Go back here. Oh no. So we have some errors because we got a 500 error, and it says message is not defined. So I probably missed something. So response is equal to messaging response, and then response.message is the text. Oh, so I needed. So since message is not defined, we'll define that. So response.message. No. Here. Okay, and then response.message is the body, and then message.media is the media file. So let's save that. Okay, intent looks good. And if I Control-C, run this again, and hope that we will be getting the same URL. Okay, that seems fine. And go back to the dev phone. And now if we text hi again and wait for a response. There we go. So it says, ahoy, welcome to Reactor. This is Rishabh. And it did send a media file, which I'm guessing is a cat GIF or a cat image. Awesome. So with that phone, I don't know, it's not rendering the media files right now. But if you text it from your personal phone, you can see a cat image, which probably is funny. But yeah, so that was, again, so far what we have seen is the first example that we saw was us sending to a list of numbers or just a single number. This one, people are texting in and we are replying back, but it's also still a generic message, right? It's not doing anything. What I want to do is have some kind of logic where it looks like a two-way communication or two-way conversation. And the way to do that is I have a file here, which is two-way Flask, as the name says. What I have done is I've just modified the cat code that we wrote in one-way Flask file to include an if and else logic. So what it does is it filters through the responses that we are getting in. So if you send a hi, it will say, I only reply with quotes or cats. So then you say, OK, give me a cat image. What it does is it filters through all the body and sees if there was cat mentioned or quote mentioned. So you can see that happening here. So if incoming message, we change the body to lowercase. And then we say if quote was in incoming messages, we get a quote from this API that's available. It's a free public API. And we send that back to the user saying, here's a quote, probably a motivational quote, right? Otherwise, it also handles the error. So if you don't get a status code of 200 from the quotes API, it'll say, sorry, I could not retrieve a quote at this time because you have to handle the errors. Same thing with cat. So if cat is in incoming messages, it sends that the message.media includes a cat pic, again, from the cat as a service API. And then if not responses, it just says, hey, I only deal with cats or quotes. So please include that in the body, right? So if I run that by closing this, so if I do a Control-C here, And instead of running one-way Flask, we run this two-way Flask app. Okay. And this should be an error. That's fine. And now if I send hi to the same number, it should say, hey, so it says, ahoy, this is Rishabh again. I only know about famous quotes and cats. Sorry. So I said, okay, give me a quote. And it gives me a quote. It says, trust yourself, you know more than you think you do. Benjamin Spock. So it also includes the author. But it's if I say, okay, thank you. How about a cat? Again, since the media files are not rendering, it did send a response, probably with a cat image, but it's not rendering in dev form for some reason. But it works. So that's a two-way communication, but you can already see how big your code can get if you start including these logics. And that's why we have Twilio Studio, which is really close to Logic Apps, which is a low-code, no-code solution. And you just kind of drag and drop things on what to do if a customer says this, what to do if a customer says this, through your text, WhatsApp, voice, and you can also do emails now. So that was the demo for today. I hope you enjoyed it. But yeah, feel free to get as many cat pics as you want. The number is on top. Funny enough, I did this demo 2 weeks ago in Boston, and we did bring down the cat as a service API because a lot of people started texting and the API was down for like 10 minutes. We were getting 503 responses. So yeah, apologize if the cat as a service developer is watching this, but yeah, so that was the demo. Thank you very much, and let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions, any insights? We have some more food. I think that we are going to close it. Alexia, if you want to switch for the slides and do the wrap up online. Thanks. And we are. Hey, I hope you enjoyed it. You didn't know about the cat as a service. That's so good. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I think I was on mute for this. I have just shared a link in the chat for our survey if you're interested and you have some time to share. We always appreciate feedback for future events. And yeah, you can also follow us and join our community on YouTube. I shared the link to our YouTube channel, on Meetup, Twitter. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you so much.